You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast, of course, where we discuss the AFC champion, New England Patriots. We, of course, are a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to all of the great shows on there to get great Patriots content all week long. But this tonight, of course, is the Patriot Nation podcast. And Matt, I just have one question for you. Who in their right mind would be crazy enough to vote Bill Belichick into the Hall of Fame when you could instead vote for Ken Anderson?
I was not prepared for that news this week. That we're not putting Bill Belichick in first ballot. I know. I guess he needed a couple more. 8 rings is not enough. Second wins all time, not enough. It's not good enough, man. Left too much out there. Should have done more. Clearly not that good of a coach. I mean, maybe he shouldn't even make the Hall at all, if we're being honest.
There's just so much lunacy out there. And I'll tell you, so the guy from the Kansas City Star was writing, and I don't know who this idiot is, so I'm not even going to say his name. I don't care what his name is. It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. He said he didn't vote against Belichick or Kraft. He voted for the 3 senior candidates, Ken Anderson, Roger Craig, and L.C. Greenwood. Now, here's what I will tell you, okay? Roger Craig is a guy that I get it. I understand. If you want to vote for 3 guys and you want it to be Roger Craig, Robert Kraft, and Bill Belichick, fine. I have no problem with that, okay? Ken Anderson. Now, Ken Anderson won the 1981 MVP award. Good for Ken Anderson. Won the MVP with 29 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and 3,700 yards passing. It's pretty good. He had a pretty good season. Here's what I'm going to tell you. His 17-game average. Now, this is, Pro Football Reference breaks it now into 17-game averages. They say, let's just take all of his career stats and put them in there and average it out to a 17-game sample. So we'll do that. So in a 17-game sample, he averaged just a tick under 60% completion percentage, 2,900 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. That's the guy we're voting into the Hall of Fame. And listen, L.C. Greenwood is a guy that made the Pro Bowl 6 times, was a 2-time All-Pro, finished his career with under 80 sacks. Finished his career with let that sink in for a second. Finished his career with under 80 sacks. So you're telling me that guy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame more than Bill Belichick. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that Ken Anderson doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame and that, winning an MVP award is legit, of course, right? But, sorry, Donnie, apparently my mic gain is too high. I don't know. So my thing is that, the issue that I have, really, to be very honest with you, is that we can say that those guys deserve it. That's fine. But I'm also not going to sit here and say they deserve it over Bill Belichick. That's just absolutely stupid. It's stupid and it's dumb. And so are we going to say Tom Brady, oh, you know what? Hey, man, I was going to vote for Tom Brady, but Jason Witten is coming up to the end of his eligibility. And, I have to vote in Jason Witten. He deserves it. And there's a guy I had to leave off. It was just Brady. What am I supposed to do? I have to vote for Jason Witten to get in because then he's going to, it's shut the hell up and vote for the best freaking player. What are we talking about?
Yeah, shouldn't be this. Well, there's been a lot of discussion about voting methods and stuff. And I think there's probably a good discussion to be had on if the changed system they now have for voting for this stuff is the best solution.
Right.
Also, the way they have it set is whoever gets the most votes gets in no matter what.
Right.
There's no situation based on this ballot where Bill Belichick should be getting anything other than the most votes.
Right.
Like that's where it's like you can when you should start the ballot by checking him, and that's all right. Who are my other 2 votes going?
Correct.
That is how you should be approaching this. So if we're assuming that everyone was viewing this in good faith, which I don't think we should assume, but we'll start there.
Correct. Yes.
The voting system is the problem. It's crazy to me. It might be a problem. It is not the problem.
Right.
Belichick is one of the he's the greatest coach in the modern era. He's the greatest coach in the salary cap era.
Mhm.
I get like if you want to make a case for Don Shula or Bill Walsh or whatever old there's been a lot of Vince Lombardi. There's been a lot of good coaches in this sport, and I'm willing to hear you out. I think Bill's the greatest. I don't think you have to have that opinion. I think you can be a very smart football fan, analyst, and come to a different opinion there because there's a lot of different perspectives on that. But salary cap era, it's Bill Belichick, and I don't think there's any debate about that. It's just lunacy to me. And then we can get into the political aspect of this. The reports that this was a punishment for like Spygate or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's the entire he was already punished for that. We're gonna attack on another one later, and it's again like Spygate. The allegations there. We'll take it broadly. All of the cheating allegations that have had any substance whatsoever about the New England Patriots, which there's only 2 that have had any degree of substance to them, and that's Deflategate and Spygate. Deflategate only having substance because the balls were literally measured to be under the legal limits.
Right.
So there's something to be discussed there. But of all of these, only one of them had anything to do with the head coach. And what was impacted was 1/2 of one football game.
Correct.
If that is the standard, if we're saying that voters are allowed to, for things like that, punish someone for events that impacted 1/2 of one football game, then like Sean Payton should never be in. Anyone associated with the management of the 97-98 Broncos should never be in.
Correct.
Bill Walsh should never be in. Any coach that's like, are we going to start getting to the point where it's like, all right, well, we have gotten to this point though. Rodney Harrison's being kept out for disciplinary stuff too.
Yep.
Which I think is ridiculous. Like unless we're talking about I don't have an issue with the Barry Bonds keeping him out because we're talking about something that was years long and impacted performance. And I think you can argue multiple ways on the Barry Bonds stuff, but I get the case for keeping him out because of how long that cheating transpired. But if we're at a point where individual acts that occurred once, one-off things that have already been punished are now being double punished for Hall of Fame stuff, and that's happening for Rodney Harrison too because he crossed the line a lot. And it's like, all right, the punishment for that should be the punishment that was handed down at the time. Right. Why are we adding on something else? Are we going to start saying, all right, this guy had too many face mask penalties, so we're going to keep him out? This offensive lineman lined up illegally too many times, so we're going to keep him out. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, it's silly.
Look at the body of work.
Well, and it's not just that, right? You look back and you say, okay, we have all these different things that we're looking at. But, and I think the negative, and we'll talk, I want to talk about how it's kind of slanted towards negativity, right? Towards the Patriots and a little anti-Patriots bias. But, and Donnie says it too, like, it's pure pettiness. Like, they literally just want to be able to say he wasn't first ballot. And that's all they want. That's all they want. And so, that's the type of stuff where it's like, it's not okay. It's crazy. And, again, I'm in favor of let's just vote on the most deserving person, whoever that person is. And I don't want to get it too far into the bond stuff because that baseball stuff would go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Right. Like, yeah, it's just hard to look at that. Right. And, talk about it. And Donnie mentions Ray Lewis too. Like, he pled out on a murder charge, like, but we're okay with that. It's okay. He can be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And
one thing I will say, just like, this is I think a big issue with any kind of sports stuff, is that how do you balance the severity of something that happens not involved with the sport versus a transgression that happens on the field? Like I can get the idea of like, all right, well, the Ray Lewis stuff is off the field and should, especially because there's no morality clause, like that should be a law thing and not a Hall of Fame thing. And that I could buy the idea, like, all right, if someone cheated, you can keep them out of the Hall of Fame. I just, for any of the allegations against Belichick, like you would have to do like you would have to win multiple Super Bowls and then have it come out that the only reason you won those was because you were blatantly cheating for multiple seasons, like for the entire year. Well, for it to amount to something where you should be keeping someone out of the Hall.
100%. And part of it is that, Tomasi writes the article about the Patriots filming walkthroughs, which wasn't true. And people still talk about it like it's a factual thing, even though he just completely made it up. And those are the types of things that it's like, like the Patriots, they get dinged for that type of stuff that's not even true. And that's a challenge. And so one of the big things, and listen, people have talked about this ad nauseum. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but there's a pretty clear anti-Patriots bias from the Hall of Fame. You look at the 70 Steelers. 70 Steelers is a perfect example. You got 10 guys in from the 70 Steelers. 10 guys and the coach. Like 10 guys and the coach and the owner. So 12 guys from the 70s. And oh, by the way, L.C. Greenwood, who people voted for, would be the 11th. So that's insane, right? Yeah. You talk about the Cowboys in the 90s. They have, I think, 6 guys in. You look at the Colts from the early 2000s. They have 4 guys in. They won 1 Super Bowl. They have 4 guys in. So you start to look at it and you say, okay, well, all right, well, we're just going to just put anyone in. Just put everyone in from these. But now we're looking at it and saying, and I think, part of the stuff for me is like, okay, you go back and you look at a guy like Lynn Swann. And Lynn Swann is the example that kind of everyone points at. Right? Everyone says, all right, blah, blah, blah. Lynn Swann, his numbers weren't great, but it's a different era, and he was great in the playoffs. Okay, what about Julian Edelman? His numbers weren't great, but he was great in the playoffs. So that doesn't count. It only counts when we're talking about Lynn Swann because he won Super Bowls. Well, the Patriots won Super Bowls. And, they just now got Seymour in. I don't know if Will Fork's ever going to get in, but he should. The other part of this is that, you just – and the Catch-22 podcast did a really nice job of talking about this. So if you haven't listened to that, you can go back and listen to this. But, I want people that know what they're talking about. Show me that you understand the game of football. Richard Seymour and Vince Wilfork are 2 of the greatest defensive linemen in the history of the NFL. If you don't think Vince Wilfork was a huge part of what the Patriots did and why they won Super Bowls, you weren't paying attention. You weren't watching. You don't know what football is. And so when I look, and I think Vince only won 1 with the Patriots, but the point stands is that, he was that good. Richard Seymour was that good. Just because the numbers don't jump off the page at you doesn't mean they weren't that good. And again, so you're telling me the Colts, who won 1 Super Bowl, have 4 guys in the Hall of Fame. And oh, by the way, if Vinatieri gets in, that's 6. That's 5, right? You're telling me that the Cowboys have 6. You're telling me that the Steelers have 10. Then you're telling me that the Patriots that dominated the NFL for 20 years have 2. Yeah, and Brady's going to get in. So there's 3.
And Belichick will get in. So that'll be 4.
So then that's – but here's my point. Okay, they dominated for 20 years, double the amount of time that everyone else dominated for. Double. All right? And they only had 3 Hall of Famers? Was there – maybe there was some coaching going on. I don't know. Maybe there was some coaching going on of non-elite players playing elite in big moments. Maybe that had something to do with the head coach. And it's just it's insane. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, they didn't have anyone that's worth being in the Hall of Fame, but also their head coach, he's not that great.
it's asinine. And I will say there is like, first of all, the fact that only 5 guys get in every year, that feels outdated to me. There's on active rosters in the NFL right now like 1,700 players, not including injured reserve and practice squad and all the other stuff.
Right.
Like it's like 0.0, it's like 0.2% or 0.3% of the number of players that are on active rosters in the NFL is how many people make it into the Hall each year. If the max for 5 players goes in, which is like that just feels too small. We probably need to be putting more players in. Like one of the reasons some of those older teams are going to get more of their guys in because there were less teams and less players at the time, so there's less competition fighting for those spots. What also works against the Patriots here is that it does feel like there's definitely guys that should be in. I think Vinatieri, Harrison, what do you call it? Vince Wilfork, guys that should be in. There's also like you could probably have like the best team in the Hall of very good if you're the Patriots.
100%.
Because it's like Teddy Bruschi, 133 tackles in 2003. The leader of that defense, probably multiple defensive touchdowns that year. Instrumental. He had 1 Pro Bowl in his career. You can't put a linebacker in the Hall of Fame when he had 1 Pro Bowl.
Right.
But it's like, all right, the guy didn't get the accolades at the time. Mike Vrabel, honestly, is a guy you look back at, and it's like, man, he's a guy who I now wonder. Obviously, we're very early in his coaching career, but if his coaching continues the way it has been, he might be someone that gets in a kind of combination of coaching and playing. Yeah. But I don't know, Willie McGinnis is another one of those guys who was nails in all 3 Super Bowl runs early. Outside of those 3 years, his career doesn't have a whole lot. Like longevity was an issue for him. Injuries were an issue for him. The overall stats aren't that good. The accolades aren't that good, even though he was a very good player.
All-time leader in playoff sacks.
And this is true all over the place. You go to the late dynasty era, guys like Dante Hightower and Devin McCourty. It's the same thing again, where it's like they perennially had players that were like between the 6th and the 10th best at whatever they did all over the roster. So they're not getting all pros and they're not getting Pro Bowls. So they don't get the accolades you need to make the Hall of Fame, even though these are great players who were great year in and year out and consistent and allow you to build a franchise around them. Like what McCourty and Hightower allow you to do defensively for the late 2010s is why they were so good every year. Like they were massive in that. McCourty's flexibility, Hightower's flexibility made them so diverse defensively. And they're probably never getting in the Hall because they don't have the Pro Bowls and the All-Pros and the stats that you need to get there. And
I think, by the way, I don't mean to cut you off. I think McCourty's a guy that could get in eventually. Only because he's on TV. He's phenomenal on TV. And everyone loves him. Like everyone that meets him loves him. And as the press, and as the people that vote for these things, and as they see him more and meet him more and are with him more and see, I think that that's a guy that can get in based off some of what he did, for them in that run, just because of the guy he is. Almost the inverse of Belichick. You know what I mean? So,
and it's possible, but it's a weird thing. I actually don't think it's an anti-Patriots bias. I just think it's the combination of the fact that the Hall is probably more exclusive than it needs to be, and you have a lot of Patriots players that are like if we're talking March Madness, they're like just off the bubble, or like they're on the bubble, but they're not going to get picked.
Yeah.
And all right, if you had a more expansive voting process for some of this stuff, you'd get it might get a bunch of those guys in, or at least more serious conversations about them. But first of all, Adam Vinatieri should be in. And the fact that only 4 guys went into the Hall last year, I think says the voting process is an issue.
Correct.
Because look at the guys on the ballot.
Right.
I mean, there are great players who right now have no shot at the Hall. Here's a question: is Wes Welker going to end up being a Hall of Famer?
No chance, which is a shame, but no chance.
He should be. For as much as Randy Moss did stuff in 2007, Welker's the guy who revolutionizes the position. He's the guy who revolutionizes that offense. He's the guy who's still there in 2010 when Brady's unanimous MVP and he's able to move the chains for you in 2011 when you have that great offense, and in 2012 when you have that great offense, and then he's part of the 2013 team with Peyton Manning, where Manning throws 55 touchdowns,
55, yep.
And like Welker should and what he did as a punt returner at points early in his career too. Like that's a guy that should be in the Hall. There's such a backlog at wide receiver that he probably doesn't have a chance.
Right.
And we should probably change the voting process because of that.
And not just that, but again, the voters that are voting on this stuff are 90 years old. They don't even know. They can't make a distinction between regular wide receiver and slot wide receiver. They can't do it. They don't know. They don't get it. They look at Wes Welker and they think, he's too small. He was a slot gadget wide receiver. Completely glossing over the fact that he invented a new position. He basically invented a new position, right? And the slot receiver existed, but not the way it does now. And that's because of Wes Welker. And it's just like, that's the stuff that's frustrating, where it's like, dude, you can't even see what's right in front of your face. And that's the frustrating part. And you go back, look, I go all the way back to like a guy like Stanley Morgan, who, is the all-time leader in yards per reception. Like the NFL leader in yards per reception. It's pretty good. It's not bad. I think all-time leader in yards per reception, I think it's over like 250 catches or something like that. But even still, like 250 catches isn't that much to say the all-time leader in yards per reception. You know what I mean? So that's the stuff where it's just, it feels difficult to not be a Patriots fan. Mike Haynes makes it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not because he played for the Patriots, because he played for the Raiders when the Raiders won Super Bowls. If he played for the Patriots his whole career, there's no chance he makes the Super Bowl. He makes the Hall of Fame, because he doesn't have the Super Bowls that he gets with the Raiders, and that's that's not right. But that's the way it is. And Goldwyn mentions Matthew Slater, and Slater's never going to get in the Hall of Fame, and it's a shame because he should be in the Hall of Fame. And there's guys like Steve Tasker and Don Beebe or whatever that did what he did. Tasker's another guy where it's like, he just every single year he did that stuff. Devin Hester wasn't a first-year ballot. Like, how is Devin Hester not a first ballot Hall of Famer? He's the greatest return man in the history of the NFL, and it's not close. If you watch the game, And so it's like these guys don't watch the game. Like, they don't understand these things. And that's the frustrating part. Where his wide receiver numbers aren't good. Who cares what his wide receiver numbers are? He's the greatest kick returner of all time. What difference does that make? Like, it's just it's stupid. I mean, the Colts. You think about when a guy is so good that he just completely changes the way the game is played. The Colts won the Super Bowl in 2006. They kicked off the Devin Hester. He returned the open kick for a touchdown. They just kicked it out of bounds. They kicked it out of bounds the rest of the game. They just said, take the ball at the 40. We're just not kicking to him. That's the only way he can beat us. It's insane. Like, that's how good he was. And they just like, and he's in now, but like, he should have been a first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer. He's the greatest return man in the history of the NFL. He's in. It's not that hard. And it's like these guys are making some sort of stupid, convoluted, it's just like baseball where it's like, we can't all vote for that guy. It can't be unanimous. Someone's got to vote against Ken Griffey Jr. getting in because it can't be unanimous. It's like, what are you doing? It's just stupid.
It's so dumb. Like, it becomes about them and like some kind of arbitrary standard instead of like, does this guy belong in the Hall of Fame? Right. And I will say, like, I know like the prompt they ask is, can you tell the story of the game without this player? And like, for me, like, Adam Vinatieri is a shoe-in. If that's the question. Wes Welker should be a shoe-in if that's it for the way he changed things. And like, if we're gonna go on that standard, I don't hate the Eli Manning thing because it's a massive narrative. Although I will say, if we're gonna do that, guys should be in probably Steve Spagnuolo as a coordinator for what he did. Also, the other guy that grinds my gears that he isn't in, Don Coryell, the old Chargers coach. If we're talking about impact on the game, can't tell the story of the game without him. Yeah, the fact that he isn't in is ridiculous to me. Like, what they did with passing offenses was like the genesis of so much of what the NFL is today. Yeah. And to not have him in is crazy to me. But I think he got put up recently, and like, I think he's off the ballot now. I believe. It's just, and that's the type of stuff where it's just like,
I don't know. It's just frustrating. I mean, look, Adam Vinatieri, I'll go a step further and tell you that Peyton Manning might never have a Super Bowl if it wasn't for Adam Vinatieri.
Mm-hmm.
They won the divisional round against the Ravens 15-6 on 5 Adam Vinatieri field goals. Now, again, none of them were like, but it's 23, 42, 51, 48, 35. You know, like, I don't know. Does Vanderchoke miss one of those? And now all of a sudden it's 12-6, and they, you know, and the Ravens go down and score a touchdown. Who knows, right? Like, it's just that's the type of stuff, you know?
And the flip side, Manning might have multiple, if not for Adam Vinatieri, because 03 AFC Championship game where he kicked 5 field goals to knock Peyton Manning out. Like, that's Vinatieri's like an instrumental figure in the early 2000s into the mid 2000s. Like, he is massive, and I feel like he like from those early Patriots teams, it should clearly be Brady, it should be Vinatieri, it should be Rodney Harrison, in addition to Law and Richard Seymour. Like, you need all of those guys should be in. And we'll say, like, part of those teams are going to have fewer players than some of the other teams, because it really, like, it was not a selfish group. And you have a lot of, like, it's Belichick and Brady. They deserve so many of the accolades for what happened, because they elevated groups that were kind of good but not great oftentimes across the board.
Yeah, it's true.
And, you know,
and so
maybe some of the offensive linemen from these times for the Patriots should be in, but honestly, there weren't. Like, Matt Light was the epitome of good but not great at left tackle.
Right. Logan Mankins, maybe you could make an argument for.
He doesn't have a ring, so he was the best offensive lineman in that time, and he doesn't have a ring. So
right, which is wild.
Like, Dante Scarnecchia should be in as a contributor. Like,
correct.
He should be. I think we should probably be giving a little bit more love to the position coaches and the coordinators across the board, because, like, looking back, Steve Spagnuolo is a guy that should be in. Honestly, like, Bill Belichick is someone that should be in as a defensive coordinator alone, forgetting all the other stuff. He never has his career with the Patriots. I think you could argue he has a Hall of Fame case for what he did with the Giants.
His game plan is in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
As a coordinator is someone that, like, long term should probably be in. Like, you look at the defenses, like Spagnuolo is one, but, like, Vic Fangio. Like, every defense in the NFL right now is trying to do what Vic Fangio does.
Yeah, it's true.
Can't tell, like, the entire. Okay, so what has been the story in the NFL the last couple seasons? The entire thing is about, there's no big plays anymore.
Right.
Why is that? Because everyone's copying Vic Fangio. You talk about can't tell the story of the game. You can't tell the story of the 2020s here without Vic Fangio and the way he impacts the scheme across the board.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, that's the type of thing that should get you in the Hall. Will it? Probably not.
One Goalie brings up too with Kraft. He ended the lockout. Like, he ends the 2011 lockout, and that's, you know, while his wife is dying. Like, his wife is actively dying, and he is in meetings ending the lockout. And of course, you have that unbelievable picture of him, you know, just being enveloped by by Jeff Saturday. And it's like, that's the type of stuff where it's like, that's what he was doing. That's what he means to this league. And it's like, that was a long time ago, so people forget it. But, like, you shouldn't. He, you know, now he's in his 3rd Super Bowl with a 3rd head coach and a 3rd quarterback. I don't know. It's pretty good. You know, like, that means something, you know, like, it's just, that's the hard stuff where it's like, you know, where do you kind of go, and who do you find to do it? But, like, he hires Parcells, he hires Pete Carroll, he hires Bill Belichick. Now he's hired Mike Vrabel. He's done these things. It's just, that's the stuff for me that that's where it's frustrating. So,
and then one final point, Boley points this out. He's 100% correct. Bill Belichick has also had the utmost respect for the Hall of Fame, the history/legacy of football. He talked about visiting the Hall with his dad as a kid. Like, there's no one is more passionate, except, like, maybe, like, the Sables, Steve and Ed Sable, I think are maybe the only people on this planet more what do you call it? That love the history of the sport more than Bill Belichick. His father
100%.
literally wrote a scouting manual back in the day. He grew up with this. He loves the sport. He loves NFL films. He was part of the NFL 100 panel.
Yeah.
And he's able to talk in detail about players going back so long, all up to modern day. And I don't know. It's so that's the part that's disrespectful to me is that like I get people who have issues with Bill Belichick, but this is a man who has devoted his entire life to this sport with a great reverence and respect for the people who came before him and has used his position to elevate those who came before him and try to share the game with people and like to go after this guy in particular.
It's crazy.
Like he's what the Hall of Fame is all about. Guys like Bill Belichick.
Well, and you know, credit to guys like Jimmy Johnson. And this is like what's crazy. And what I love about this is that, you know, Belichick took a little bit of a hit this year, right? He's got the whole Jordan stuff going on. UNC wasn't as good as people thought they were going to be, which kind of makes sense because they weren't very good to begin with, right? But, you know, UNC wasn't as good as people thought they were going to be. He was people were worried about him ruining his legacy. The entire internet, the entirety of the sporting world basically turned out and said, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. What the hell are we doing? You know, and like, it's kind of awesome that it worked out that way for him. I'm sure he would rather have been, you know, a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I think, you know, when LeBron James and Jimmy Johnson, credit to Jimmy Johnson for just pounding the table about how incredible Belichick is and how much he deserves it, right? But like all of these people that are sitting here saying these things about him, some of his biggest rivals, right? Some of the people that didn't like him the most are out here talking about how he deserves it, and no one is a steward. And I think, you know, the history of the game. He is a historical guy. That's who he is. And he loves the history of the game. And he loves to, you know, they talked about when he was in Cleveland, how, you know, go see the Ring of Honor. Before they left the stadium, you know, they stopped the buses and they got out and went to the Jim Brown statue. And it's all of these things that he does that, you know, shows that he cares so much about the history of the game. And then to do this to him in that moment, it's just like, what are we even talking about? And listen, people can be, oh, he stunk without Brady and he was this and he was that. I mean, I don't know. You can say he stunk without Brady, but like he dragged the lifeless corpse of Cam Newton to 7-9. The next season, he made the playoffs with rookie Mac Jones. You know what I mean? So, and then, yeah, he had two bad seasons in 2022 and 2023. Like, that's pretty much it.
He was like 70 years old. Yeah, the whole like, oh, he wasn't good without Brady. Yeah, most coaches aren't as good when they don't have a good quarterback.
Correct.
Like he's the one that drafted Tom Brady and then controversially stuck with Brady to start over Drew Bledsoe after the injury. Like, does he not get credit there? Do we not listen to Tom Brady when Brady talks about how instrumental Belichick was in his development? And I've said it before, and I will say it again and again. You do not get this dynasty without 100% of Bill Belichick and 100% of Tom Brady. It is the symbiotic relationship between Brady and his offensive mind and Belichick and his defensive mind, and the way they are able to work off of each other and create a culture in that locker room that allows you to do what you do for 20 years. Trying to separate them is irresponsible. Like it's the package, it's what they do together that matters. And neither should be discounted for that.
100%. And that's the stuff. So it's frustrating. And the other part of it too is that, you know, and Donnie's kind of talking about this as well, is that like there are still guys on this roster that are making plays that are contributing in big ways that he either signed or drafted onto this team. And it's like, yeah, you can talk about his record with drafting and, you know, and some of the misses, of course, starting in 2019 and everything else. And they were fall-offs for sure, 100%. There's stuff that I'm still pissed about from, you know, whatever, years ago. And yes, he fell off a little bit. But his overall record as a general manager, is insane. You could make an argument that he's the greatest general manager of all time, and it's
100%.
a compelling argument, and that's not even the coach side of it.
Yeah, and that's like so much of what we talked about today with like cap management and analytics and draft pick value and stuff like that. Like Belichick and Ernie Adams together were way ahead of everyone at the start of this stuff. Now, granted, I think by the end they started to slip and probably fall behind a little bit, but like that's fine. that doesn't make it work. Like being at the forefront for 15 years is how we're at Super Bowl 60 for 25% of the Super Bowl era. You've been at the forefront of driving like the economics of football and a management style of football. Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Kind of matters.
You don't take it away because he couldn't do it for 30%. Like, what?
It's just silly. It's just silly. Yeah. And ultimately that's really what it comes down to, is that you look at it and say, okay, even if you want to say he faltered in at the end of his career, that's fine. But it's just, it's just one of those things where it's like he was so good for so long. It's foolish.
That's totally irrelevant to the case, in my opinion. The case is, look how many games he won. Look how many Super Bowls he won. Your job as a head coach is to win games and win championships.
Right.
Like I don't think you need anything other than those two numbers.
Well, and this is the thing, right? When you start to look at the second run, and of course there's a million moments in the first run as well. But when you start to look at the second run, and you look at that Seahawks game in particular, right? That 2014 Seahawks game. That's just like, that's one of the most unbelievable coaching decisions in the history of the NFL. For him, the Seahawks had the ball second and goal at the 1 yard line, down 4 points. And somehow Bill Belichick is the one that has the coaching advantage. It's insane to think that that's the case. He forced Pete Carroll into doing what he wanted him to do when Carroll was 1 yard away from winning the game. And so,
not only that, the specific play that the Seahawks ran was the one that they had practiced against because of preparation. Which, we talk about guys who should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, not only should Bill be, and I think there's probably a case that like Ernie Adams should be. Like, if we're gonna talk about the Patriots not necessarily having the number of Hall of Fame players as other franchises, just because of the team structure and accolades, we should be looking at the other side of things. Like Ernie Adams should be considered. Dante Scarnecchia should be considered. Josh McDaniels, who'd been here since the beginning, should be considered for stuff. Right. I don't think guys like Charlie Weitz or Romeo Crennel were around long enough to get accolades here, but like, man, like there were some real good front office coach guys that came out of that should probably also be getting credit. I mean, Josh McDaniels for the 07 Patriots. Like, are we saying that like the only people from the 07 Patriots that are offensively that deserve credit for this are just Brady and Moss?
Yeah, it's crazy.
The coordinator doesn't get credit.
Right.
None of the other receivers get credit. Right. None of the offensive linemen get credit. Like, it's not the best offensive line in the world. It's not the best tight end room. It's not a good running back room. But like, it's not just Brady and Moss. There were other players out there too, and other people coaching them, and just reducing that to just two guys when it was one of the most dynamic offenses in football that drove so much of what happened over the next decade in the sport. Like, I don't.
Yeah, well, and it's crazy. And then it's like you also look at. It's funny because you look at the 2013 Broncos, who were incredible as well, and of course Manning has arguably the greatest season by a quarterback of all time, right? And it's just Manning that's in from that. Like, he's the only one. Demaryius Thomas probably is never going to get in. Wes Welker's on that team as well, right? Yeah. Like, and then that's really it. There's no one else that's even close to consideration, right? And so it's kind of crazy that he put up those numbers with that kind of team. So, anyways, it just is what it is. So, I think we're ready. Let's do an ad break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some current stuff. By the way, two housekeeping notes, two cleanup notes. Got a text by my dad. I have to clean it up. Got to clean it up here. Vince Wilfork did win 2 Super Bowls. He won one his rookie year and his final year here as well. And Robert Kraft did not hire Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells was hired in 93 by James Worthwine, and then Kraft, of course, bought the team in 94. So, you get it. But that's, anyways. So, all right, let's get into our ad break. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season outright with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Once again, you can find your community on Prize Picks with the new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. And don't forget the Prize Picks now is early payouts, which means if your player or players get off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So what are you going to do? Download the app Prize Picks, put in the promo code CLNS, and you're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Okay. Back to the...
Got that off our chests?
Yes, back to the 2025 Patriots. There's so much more. I could honestly talk about Rodney Harrison. We could do an entire show just on Rodney Harrison not being in the Hall of Fame and how disgusting it is. It's just like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But nevertheless, you know who should be a finalist though is Darren freaking Woodson instead. Joke. It's just embarrassing. But anyways, let's take a look at the 2025 Patriots. Of course, going to the Super Bowl, pretty unbelievable. Going to the Super Bowl here, and again, we talked about it. But man, here they are against the Seahawks. You have a real opportunity against them. And by the way, like everyone's kind of coming out picking the Seahawks except for Kendall Jenner, who picked the Patriots on Jimmy Fallon. But you have all these people kind of picking the Seahawks, and what they came out, they asked 11 people on ESPN, and all 11 said the Seahawks were winning.
I thought it was 13.
It might have been 13. Okay, so
between 13 at ESPN and then the 10 on NFL Network,
it's crazy.
It was 22 of 23 pick Seattle. Here's the thing: like Seattle's favored in this game. I do think Seattle was the better team. The idea that they've got like a 95% chance of winning that you get from looking at those predictions is insane to me. Like,
right.
Let's not forget that we're like less than 2 months removed from them barely squeaking out a home victory over the Phillip Rivers led Colts.
Right.
They were only the 1 seed in the NFC because of a couple crazy bounces in that home game against the Rams on Thursday Night Football late in the year.
Yeah.
Like they were razor thin margins, kind of be where they've been. And yeah, they have looked fantastic the last couple of times they've stepped foot on the field. But like the Patriots also looked fantastic the last couple of times they stepped on the field before they got into the AFC playoffs and were playing some of these other teams.
And I also think too that like everyone's picking the Seahawks to win as though it's like a foregone conclusion. Well, Vegas doesn't agree. The spread's 3.5. It's not like they're favored by 10. It's 3.5 point spread. Like you feel like, it's the people that know feel like it's going to be a close game. And I feel like they generally do a very good job of picking those things. And so it's like, yeah, I smell a rat. 22 out of 23, are picking the Seahawks, and Vegas thinks only 3.5 point spread. Like that's work. Yeah. I'd be worried if I was someone that was all in on the Seahawks.
Now, can I give a stat here that I think should set the tone for discussion of this game? Because I feel like it kind of gets overlooked, but it's something I've been leaning into more and more. You have to figure out what type of game it's going to be, and this is something we talked about in the playoff run here. Is like when you play the Chargers, you're not going to have the ball that many times. You play Houston, you know you're going to have the ball a lot. So then, like, the number of possessions, number of opportunities with the ball is going to change the way you game plan, the way you make decisions, and just straight up the number of opportunities you have, which is important. So this is from Hayden Winks over at Underdog Sports. This Super Bowl sets up as a slow-paced script. Seahawks and Patriots are 24th and 28th in seconds per play. If those metrics hold, this would mean just 118-ish offensive plays, which would be 30th in the NFL. So this projects to be a game probably without a massive number of possessions, or if so, it's going to be short possessions. This is both teams like to run the football. Both teams complete a lot of passes. The clock's probably going to be running. So I think I want to pair that stat with another one. The Seahawks offense is 31st in turnovers. Their defense is 6th at forcing them. The Seahawks play, there's a lot of turnovers on both sides. That, to me, you put these two together, and it says high volatility game.
Yep.
Because let's say each team gets the ball 9 times. So there's going to be 18 total possessions in the game. Well, if there's 5 turnovers in this game combined between the two teams, that's like a third, a little bit less than a third of the possessions in the game already off the table. We know there's going to be no points on those. And also we might be setting up short fields.
Right.
Like that can, I really do think this game has a blowout potential in either direction because of that. Like
because
that, I think is where we got to start. And also should be low scoring. Like this is the type of game that, like, if it ends up being 27-3, one of the teams wins. It wouldn't surprise me. If it ends up being 20-17, that also wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point by you. And I think one of the other things too, and you know, I'm curious about what the number is for the Patriots, and I don't know what it is, but I will tell you the number I got. And again, from Evan Lazar, the Seahawks are 29th. In neutral pass percentage, right? And again, neutral pass percentage just means they're just drop back passing, and it's not a blowout situation. So, of course, in a blowout situation, obviously, you're going to be more slanted towards running the football than you would be passing, right?
When it's typically like first half, only first and second down.
Right.
What are you doing? Right. It's kind of like when we're not getting into situations.
It's not third and long. It's not right.
Or 3rd and 1 where you're guaranteed to be running the ball, and it's not a second half situation where you might be down by 10 points and you have to throw. The whole idea is like, all right, when the game's close and you're not in a specific situation where you have to call a certain play, what do you like to call?
Right.
Seahawks love to run. But you also, and you see this borne out, I think, in the overall statistics, just like forget the fancier ones by total attempts, the raw volume here, it's pretty skewed too. They are where is it? Yeah, they're 29th in the league in passing attempts and 3rd in rushing attempts. And this is what they do. They run the football. And they're not even necessarily that good at it, but they do run.
They're okay at it. Now, here's the thing, and this is where it's important. Zach Charbonnet's out. Done for the year. That's huge. Charbonnet is typically their goal line back. He's their big back. And Kenneth Walker is typically their scat back, right? They're fast, you quote unquote fast back, right? They like to throw a walk out of the backfield. They like to give it to him a decent amount, right? But usually, as a guy who had both guys in fantasy, right? Usually their stats are around the same. They're playing about the same amount of snaps. They're getting about the same amount of touches. And then one guy can go off and the other guy maybe will have a mediocre game. And that's usually kind of how it goes. And you don't really know who that guy is going to be when the game starts. As the game progresses, one guy's kind of feeling it, and so they kind of keep him in, and he's the guy that, gets the volume carries and so on and so forth, right? We don't have that luxury anymore, right? And they have a backup running back, but he's not Zach Charbonnet. So,
nope.
It creates an advantage for the Patriots.
Yes.
This game is going to be won on the defensive line. It's going to be won on the defensive line by the Patriots, and this is something where I was very encouraged by what I saw on Sunday. You're talking about the first-team All-Pro guard, The first team all-pro left tackle. That you're talking about the best tackle in the NFL, the best left tackle in the NFL, and we would say the best tackle in the NFL, except Penny Sewell plays right tackle, so maybe not the best tackle in the NFL, but you're saying the best left tackle in the entire NFL and the best right guard in the entire NFL. And the Patriots dominated them all game long.
They really did. I want to provide a little context here because I've been getting into the Seahawks tape, and I'll use these PFF numbers for reference only because I've backed this up with the tape, and I agree that the grades are accurate here. The Seahawks offensive line ranks 13th for run block grade. The Seahawks running backs as a unit, first. And if you go to overall running back grade just by players, Kenneth Walker is first, Devon Achane is second, Zach Charbonnet third. So not having Charbonnet is massive.
Yep.
But the attention shifts to Kenneth Walker here, and I want to talk specifically about his style. He's not LeGarrette Blount, but there's the LeGarrette Blount to him in that if he gets a full head of steam, he is so much harder to take down. By PFF's missed tackles forced stat that they keep track of, Kenneth Walker is 5th among all running backs for missed tackles forced on rushes. He is hard to bring down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the number one key to this game for the Patriots, and I think this is also true in the passing game when Seattle's throwing the ball, but the defensive line, it's not going to be enough to just maintain the line of scrimmage. You need to get penetration because you need to create something that makes Kenneth Walker have to slow down and evaluate what's going on. Mm. If you let him build up a full head of steam, the Patriots are one of the best tackling teams in the NFL. He's still going to break tackles against you and be very hard to bring down. So you're going to have to get into that backfield. You're going to have to make life difficult. You're going to have to rally to the ball well because he's still, even when you do that, he's still going to break tackles. The second, the third, the fourth guys in need to get there quickly. They need to wrap up and hit hard as well. I think that's going to be one of the big things. And for the full season, this Seahawks rushing attack, this is the whole regular season, 22nd in EPA per play, 23rd in success rates. The rushing attack for the season, not great. But since week 10, including playoffs, 9th in EPA, 12th in success rate. They've been better as of late. They have some AJ Barner as a blocking tight end who's excellent. Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba will block well. So, if they can get to the outside on you, especially Kenneth Walker with a full head of steam headed to the outside, is very, very hard to take down.
Well, I'll tell you, to your point about Kenneth Walker, his touchdown, he had a 2-yard touchdown to kick off the scoring on Sunday. If you watch that play back, and I saw a still picture of it, I didn't believe the still picture when I saw it. I watched the play with my own eyes, but then I saw the still picture, and I'm like, how in the world? There are three Rams defenders unblocked at the line of scrimmage, and Kenneth Walker scored. It was insane. He just shifted and cut to the right, and all three of those defensive linemen couldn't get there. They didn't do a good enough job setting the edge because they thought the ball was going into the middle, and he just beat everyone to the outside and scored a touchdown. And it was just how did he just do that? And then I saw the still picture of it, and I'm like, oh my God, he's facing down the barrel with 3 defenders, and he scored a touchdown in that play. And it's just, that's the type of stuff that he can do. And so I don't necessarily love Kenneth Walker. I don't think he's this great player, but he is better than some people give him credit for. And I think part of that is because he plays in that with Charbonnet. So people are like, well, he plays in a committee, he must not be that good, because if he was that good, he'd be a bell cow. Right. And it's just no, he's that good. They just try to save him, and they got 2 guys that are both very good. And so they use them both. And that's really the truth. And so it's not going to be easy to stop him, but that to me, JSN's incredible. Right. And I think that I want to segue
this to him here in a second.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can necessarily stop JSN. Stopping Kenneth Walker to me is the key of the game. If you can stop the running attack and force Sam Darnold to throw the ball. Look, Jared Stidham threw the ball 37 times on Sunday, right? That wasn't the plan, especially in a blizzard. But they couldn't run the ball, so they had to throw it. They had no choice. If you can do that to the Seahawks, that increases the opportunity for turnovers by Sam Darnold. It increases the likelihood that Sam Darnold will get a little bit rattled and, maybe miss some throws, maybe make some bad throws. And, and it gets them out of their game. And that's really the key to winning this football game, in my opinion.
Yeah. And there's a sequence in the Tennessee game Seattle played, I think week 12, week 13, that I want to talk about because I feel like it perfectly illustrates how JSN and Kenneth Walker, as your two lead guys, can be so good on offense where they can kill you quickly. So this is a game. It ends up coming down to the wire because Tennessee pulls a comeback late, but Seattle's ends up dominating most of it. How that starts early in the second quarter. It's a third down. The Seahawks motion Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they motion him from one side of the formation to the other and immediately snap it. And the way things line up, he ends up being one-on-one with a safety down the field. Turns into a 63-yard touchdown pass. We're going to fast forward to early in the third quarter. You hit him on the first play of the second half. Play action shot. You get Jackson Smith and Jigba on a safety again. Hit him 56-yard play. 2 plays later, you hit him for a 13-yard touchdown. So now, a lot of that's him breaking tackles. He has incredible athleticism. I mentioned the stat about Kenneth Walker forcing missed tackles. For non-running backs on receiving plays, Jackson Smith and Jigba is 5th in missed tackles forced.
Yep.
He's just as good at it. He's unbelievable in space. His ability to get away from guys and break tackles. So you've got 2 possessions here that have ended and then have featured these massive touchdowns to Jackson Smith and Jigba. So a couple possessions later, Seahawks come out. Titans know we can't get beat over the top again. First play of the drive, 19-yard run for Kenneth Walker because they're trying to make sure to take away the deep ball. Next play, 11-yard run by Kenneth Walker. So you're already over midfield. Then the Seahawks draw up one of their big play action pass concepts. And even with the 2 big runs, the Titans are still saying, no, we are taking away the deep pass. So the check down underneath to Kenneth Walker is absolutely wide open. It goes for 29 yards. And then you're in scoring range. Charbonnet ends up punching it in as he does a couple plays later for a touchdown. And those are the 3 touchdowns the Seahawks score in that game. They have this ability to do this to you. Some of the explosive plays they can put together are ridiculous because of the way those 2 guys play off of one another. And that's kind of the entire Seahawks offense. it's those 2 guys. But this happens. One of the big challenges is how do you defend Jackson Smith and Jigba and defend the run at the same time? And you go the Atlanta game. This game ends up being tied at the half. There's a special teams aspect, which I think we can get into. Maybe not today. We're gonna have multiple episodes breaking down this game. So we'll get into special teams next week. But the Seahawks get the ball in the second half. Now they're up by a score, and it's just play action over route to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and it's AJ Terrell, great corner. He just runs away from him, and then they do it again, and then they do it again. I think it's 3 times on that drive, and it's just man coverage. Nothing fancy about the route. He's just quicker and faster than you, and he runs away from you, and that leads to a touchdown that basically puts that game away. He is. I mean, you really can't cover him in man coverage because he's that athletic. And I want to get into one little nuance thing here that I picked up on because I was watching. It was the Sam Darnold breakdown that the QB school. I forget the name of the JT O'Daniel. Oh my goodness, I'm mixing guys up.
JT O'Sullivan.
O'Sullivan, thank you. That he hosts, and he does one thing that's interesting about his episodes is that he'll critique the wide receiver route running in a way that you would expect a QB to do that in a meeting, because you get to hear what does the QB think about what's going on here. And he's critiquing the way Jackson Smith and Jigba runs an over route from the NFC Championship game. And he says that typically when you do that, they do something that's called a stair step. So picture what a stair looks like. I'll do it here. The receiver is going to go across the field and then go vertical and then go back across like it's a stair. The idea being that if once you go across and you go vertical again and then come back, you're really fooling the corner.
Yeah.
JSN never does that. He just goes straight across the entire time because he's athletic enough to just run away from you. Like he doesn't need to fool you. He just runs away. Like the only way to stop that stuff is zone coverage. So like I think you're going to see Christian Gonzalez on JSN. I don't think you can stop the Seahawks offense as a whole without playing a lot of zone coverage, and that means it's going to have to be a team effort covering.
I agree with you, and I also think too he moves around too much. Like that's the problem is that it feels like he's always in motion. And if that's the case, or he's in the slot, or he's working somewhere, and it's like, well, I don't want Gonzo running around the field before the snap. He's chasing him down, and then he's in the slot. And now he's got to be our main run defender from that spot. I don't like the idea of doing that.
Yeah.
And so look, it's not. I'm not saying you can't cover him one-on-one. That's not what I'm saying. And I think that there are certainly going to be plays where Gonzo is one-on-one on JSN. And I don't mind that matchup. I think that Gonzo can win those matchups at times.
He can hold his own.
Correct. And so I think, but it's just like to ask him to do that all game, I think is just, it's not understanding what the Seahawks do. And it's putting you at a disadvantage, in my opinion. And so that's something I don't want to see them do all game. They'll do it at times because you have to play man a little bit at least.
You're always gonna mix things up.
Yeah. And so, we'll see.
And the Patriots also like to play the like quarters coverage and stuff where it's zone, but it'll turn into man coverage. And I'm sure in those, like it's whoever gets JSN in those is gonna have to play solid one-on-one coverage.
Correct.
But the reason I mentioned how we're gonna have to penetrate in the run game, it's just as true when they're dropping back. I think the way to stop JSN is at the source, and that's Sam Darnold, and that's the offensive line.
That's correct.
The first game I watched of tape was the Seattle-Minnesota game because that was one of the worst games JSN had all year, and I wanted to see what did Brian Flores and the Vikings do to take him away. And the answer was it was a couple things. There was a cohesive theory behind it. They weren't covering JSN. They were covering the passing lane.
Mm-hmm.
So what that meant was linebackers constantly dropping underneath where JSN was trying to run routes, which included a lot of stop routes, a lot of routes where he's running somewhere and then it's a hitch, it's a curl, it's a spot route, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to send the linebacker underneath it. It doesn't matter what corner is over there. If someone's in the passing lane, you can't throw the ball because it's going to get batted down.
Right.
You saw a lot of blitzes, a lot of zone blitzes where you're getting free runners. So Sam Darnold can't get the ball out to him. Or particularly blitzes that seem to be designed to go from the side where JSN was playing so that Darnold has to roll the other direction and he can't throw it to him. And then a defense that was very active with getting their hands up and just cluttering throwing. Like I think there were 3 or 4 batted passes in that game. They strip sacked Darnold early. And then also even in man coverage, like you saw, there were corners that were just straight up face guarding him.
Yeah.
Just like we know, and this comes down to scouting. You have to know what types of plays they're going to run so that your players can just be where he wants to be when he wants to be there. That is kind of what this will come down to, I think. If you try to get into a battle where it's a one-on-one, we think our guy is better than JSN, you're going to end up losing that. Not because your guy isn't better, but because, like you said, they're going to move him around. So you have to try to figure out where he's going to be and get someone in between him and Sam Darnold.
What's ironic about that game is that they won 26-0. So it's like,
I mentioned the strip sack. So it's early in the game. Minnesota's defense forces a strip sack of Sam Darnold deep in territory and sets up a goal line or almost goal to go possession for Minnesota's offense. That next set of downs ended with the Max Brosmer pick 6 where he gets ragdolled and just throws the ball to the defense.
Yeah.
That was
not great.
That Minnesota's defense was electric that game. Minnesota's defense was awesome.
Yeah.
Minnesota's offense was
terrible. And I think that's part of it, right? But ultimately what it comes down to is that you look at some of the games that he has, right? And you just go through it. First of all, he was incredible. He had 119 catches for 1,793 yards and 10 touchdowns. He had a really unbelievable season this year, right? But The Carolina game, he finishes 9 for 72. No touchdowns. The Indy game, he finishes 7 for 113. No touchdowns. Even the first Rams game, he finishes 9 for 105 and no touchdowns. You can win the game if he has a game like that. It's going to be difficult for you to win the game if he has a game like he had against Tennessee, 8 for 167 and 2 touchdowns. Or even against Atlanta, he goes 7 for 92 and 2 touchdowns. It's going to be difficult for you to win the game if you're giving up big plays to him. He's putting up 150 plus yards and he's scoring multiple touchdowns. It's just going to be difficult for you to win. He's going to get his yards. He's going to catch the ball. Like that's going to happen. He might end up with 100 yards receiving. But if you can stop the big plays from happening, if you can force them into, he ends up with 7 catches for 100 yards. We can live with that as long as he's not scoring 2 touchdowns to go along with that. And you're doing a good job stopping the run. If that's the case, you can still win that game, especially if you can take away Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed.
Agreed. Well, it's worth noting, like he only had 2 games this year, including playoffs, under 50 yards receiving. Like he had 19 in the divisional round against the 49ers in a game that got out of hand so quickly that they're not throwing the ball. It
didn't matter, right?
And then 23 yards against Minnesota in that game. Every other game he's had at least 72 receiving yards. Yeah. He is the offense. There's a lot of other guys on this Seahawks team that can beat you if you need one play. But if we're talking drives, if we're talking explosive plays, it's JSN in the passing game and it's Kenneth Walker in the running game.
Right.
And so he's going to get targets, he's going to get yards because he's the offense when they throw the ball. But it's just putting a lid on it, making it difficult. I think wrapping him up, I think just not missing tackles on him and Kenneth Walker would go a long way. And then the other thing, like the Seahawks turn the ball over. They've gone 3 games in a row now without a turnover, which is their longest stretch of the season. 2 of those games were against the 49ers, who have an anemic defense, especially up front. And the other one was a game against the Rams, who that's a good team. That was an elite performance by Sam Darnold. I think if you get that performance by Sam Darnold in a week and a half, you're losing the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to be okay with that if he's on a heater.
Right.
But I think your other way to beat them, it's going to be like always have that pressure. And the worst player on Seattle is their right guard.
Yes.
Anthony Bradford. Yeah, he's on the right side. Anthony Bradford, not a good run blocker. He doesn't lead block well at all. He doesn't pick up twists and stunts. I think you are probably trying to bring complicated blitzes from his side as much as possible. You're trying to get interior pressure. You're trying to get Milton Williams lined up over him as much as possible. And Sam Darnold's a good athlete. Sam Darnold will try to make throws when he shouldn't. And Correct. He has done a very good job this year of making those throws. I mean, every game I've watched so far, he's made 2 or 3 throws that make it wow. Like I thought the defense won that rep, and he just turned that into a positive play. That was impressive.
Yeah.
But he'll get strip sacked, and he will throw picks. He will throw the ball late into traffic. That's your best hope, I think, is able to get that internal pressure and force him off his spot, force him to roll to his left and try to make throws, try to bat balls down. Like you got to stop this at the source. The passing game, you got to stop at the source. You have to get to Darnold.
I agree. By the way, Nagan, I think, has been hacked. Gonzo watching, thinking nobody believes I can block up JSN. I bet. Hey, if Gonzo, first of all, if Gonzo's watching right now, what's up? But also, if we inspire him to lock up, by the way, he also says that he will not get 100 yards in the Super Bowl because Gonzo will put the clamps on him. I hope that's true. I would love to see that. I just don't believe he can do it all game. I believe that he can do it at times. I believe that that he can do it in spots. I just don't. I'm not going to put that on him for the whole game. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't think you need to do that. And again, I also want to caution about that because Jason moves so much. I want Gonzo on the outside. I want him covering people on some routes that are advantageous to
Well, look at
interceptions or tip passes or things like that.
NFC Championship game. The first big play of that game on the first drive is Rashid Shaheed winning deep, and that's like, I don't hate the matchup where Gonzo's on him, and Shaheed doesn't get a lot of targets, but when he does, they can be explosive. It just
Yes.
if you can go in and say, yeah, Jason might get 100, but Shaheed will not get a single explosive play for you, I think that's probably a win. And I think based on like Jason runs a lot of underneath routes, you're probably going to see a lot of like, it's going to be him with Christian Ellis and Craig Woodson matched up on him. And it's just like, all right, they'll end up in a bracket of some kind with the two of those guys. And it's like, all right, it's not going to be perfect coverage, but one guy's going to be deeper and he's going to have to tackle him if he catches the ball. The guy underneath is going to have to try to make a deflection. And like I said, you got to get the pressure on Darnold to make the window small enough that it's difficult to throw. And he might make it once or twice during the game, but he won't make it 4 times. He won't make it 5 times. He won't kill you with it.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's worth noting that like this Seattle offense, like JSN's incredible, Kenneth Walker's incredible. They finished this year 11th in points per drive. This is not like a high flying offense. This is the worst offense to make a Super Bowl since the Peyton Manning Broncos in 2015. So yeah, even it's the only not top 10 offense that has made the Super Bowl since that team. And it's possible that defense is good enough to win the game. But
Correct.
It's a good offense. It's not a great offense. I'll also say that there's a lot of the JSN targets are 4 seconds after the snap into the flat as a check down. And he's dangerous there because he can turn a play that should be 2nd and 8 into a new set of chains because, he just broke one tackle and now it's, a 12-yard pickup, a 15-yard pickup, a 20-yard pickup. Right. That's where he's dangerous. And the Patriots defense will sometimes give you those. So just and that's fine schematically. It's just when you give up those, you have to rally to the ball quickly and stop him.
Agreed.
Which can I add one little thing, subplot to this that I'm watching right now?
Of course. By the way, we're not talking, just so everyone knows, we're not talking Patriots offense today literally at all. As you can probably tell, because we're over an hour in, we have 2 more shows until the Super Bowl. So we're going to talk about different things. We're talking about the defense today. We're definitely going to talk offense next week. And then, and we'll probably talk some more defense, and then we'll talk in specifics, in generalizations and whatnot as well, and kind of preview the whole game. But, but we wanted to dive a little deep here because we can do that and we have the time to do that. So why the heck not,
It's fun. Yeah. One thing I'm watching, 2 of the worst tackling performances for the Patriots came in their last 2 games on grass fields. Came in Denver in the AFC Championship game and the Sunday night game in Baltimore. And that matches the eye test for me, which was guys stumbling around a little bit and having some issues with footing on that. Super Bowl is going to be on a grass field. And the Seahawks have 2 guys that are elite at breaking tackles when they get the ball in their hands. You add on that we've had a couple Super Bowl fields recently that have been subpar, including the last time there was a game in San Francisco. I'm more optimistic about the field this year, just hoping that they have learned lessons from the past. The Super Bowl in Vegas, the issue in Vegas had to do with moisture and the roof being closed and condensation, which this is an open air stadium. That's not going to be an issue.
Right.
There hasn't been a game played on it recently, so they've been able to work on it for a while. I think it'll be a good field. But I do think in the game that might be very close, being able to finish tackles and just keeping your footing on both sides of the ball will be incredibly important.
Yes.
So we're talking about all these X's and O's things. The most important guy for the Patriots might not suit up on Sunday. It's going to be the equipment manager, making sure that everyone has the right cleats ready to go. Because we could talk Seattle all around is a very athletic team, very fast. If you aren't able to match that athleticism because you're slipping in the grass, it doesn't matter how much prep you do if they're just going to be able to beat you there. And, I think this is also probably true for Seattle. I haven't noticed them having issues. I don't know if I've watched a single game of them playing on grass in the tape I've watched, so I don't really know how they adapt to it. But there's a team that relies on their athleticism. So that's also a factor. If they have issues with the grass, if the grass is a not in good shape, that probably levels the playing field a little bit in some ways too, where their defense won't be able to be as fast and aggressive, which is probably their strongest trait.
Very true. And Gordon makes a good point about, Denver, obviously there was a lot of weather going on, and so maybe, that of course I'm sure had something to do with it. But there wasn't any weather at the beginning of the game. Right. So
Marcus Jones coming on a blitz, the third down before the fourth down stop, like he's out there stumbling. Like the reason that doesn't turn into a sack is because Marcus Jones slips on the turf.
right.
And he recovers and makes a great play to tackle him short of the sticks. But
yeah,
it's just little things like that I think are the type of thing that you don't think about leading up to the game that could then have a massive impact on the game.
It's definitely true. Yeah, it's definitely true. So something to look out for. That's all. So, all right, this has been fun, and we're going to get into so much more in the next week or so. I'm looking forward to next week. We have a guest, or maybe even two, coming on the show. Should be fun. It should be fun, and it's Super Bowl week, and it's going to be Radio Row, and we're going to get 1,000 interviews, and then we're going to have Media Day. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. So much great Patriots content coming out. I'm very excited about it. Of course, CLNS is sending a few guys down there. Not us, but sending a few guys down there, and so that will be fun. And just all the social stuff that will come out. It's just. This is it. We're here, and here's one thing that I'll say, and I don't know if you want to add anything else, Matt, but I'm going to leave you with this. For me, I desperately want the Patriots to win because they're here. I know it's only year one of the Vrabel era, but you're here. You don't know when you'll be back, right? And so, yeah, the Patriots look like they're poised to go on run after run after run. Joe Burrow hasn't been back. Dan Marino never got back. Right, different situation, but nevertheless, Dan Marino never got back. Like, we don't know for sure whether they're going to be back. And so you have the opportunity that's in front of you. Win the freaking game.
Yeah.
And the banner's there, and they can never take it away. And it doesn't matter if you never get back again because you won that one. But what I will say is that in the grand scheme of things, even if they lose, this has been an incredibly great season. It has been obviously a fun season, but it has far exceeded the expectations of everybody not in that building. And I think, if you gave Mike Vrabel truth serum, I think it's greatly exceeded his expectations as well. And I think that, that's something that we can't overlook. And if they lose, I'll be pissed. I'll be pissed that they lost, of course. And we'll talk about it, and we'll give the blame to whomever the blame belongs to, whether that's the coaching staff, whether that's the players, whether that's Drake May, whoever it is, right? But I also think we also need to be reasonable about this and think this season has been a massive success from a building perspective, from a putting the franchise back on the map perspective. And again, I think it comes down to, will Robert Kraft continue to spend money? And I think he will, to keep them where they need to be. I think he will. I believe that he will. And so, and then can you keep it going? Right.
Well, he is probably worth mentioning. He has already spent money on like the facility upgrades and stuff too that we've seen. Like that's the hidden. Like that's everyone's going to spend roughly the same amount of money with the salary cap. That's the money outside of the cap where the owner can make a real difference.
And all the money that he spent righting the wrong that he made last offseason, which was firing Mayo and 22 or however many assistant coaches and paying all of them out because you have to. And so those are the things that I want him to that I want to see him continue to do. And I think that he will, because he understands that that's how you win. Yep. You have to spend some of that money. That's how you win the game. And oh, by the way, the longer you play, the more money you make. It's just that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Also, it really puts things in comparison when you look at the rest of the AFC East in the last, even like since the last time we talked. You've got the Bills, who decided their head coach was the problem because they lost the game. They also believe they only lost because of an incorrect call from the officials. Threw the entire coaching staff under the bus for the failed Keon Coleman pick, and then promoted their offensive coordinator, who was also, his background was with wide receivers, to become the head coach. Makes absolutely no sense. We're gonna keep the culture and the roster management of the Sean McDermott era, but we're gonna lose the defensive coaching. Seems to be their strategy, which makes no sense at all. The Jets decided to keep their coach after the failure of the season, who 3 weeks after the year decides if we're going to can like the whole offensive staff. Nonsensical. And I would say like the Dolphins seem to be in at least a more stable place. Like they had a cohesive process this year where they brought in a GM, then let him hire the head coach. And I just don't think the hires they've made are all that inspiring. They seem milquetoast, to use a word there.
Yeah.
It's just like very clearly right now the Patriots are the best run organization in the division, and that should give everyone some optimism.
Well, I think I agree with you. And we didn't even talk about Joe Brady, but like, when's the last time that's worked? When's the last time it's worked to promote from within? You fire the head coach and you promote one of the coordinators. Certainly didn't work here. I don't know where else it's worked. It hasn't worked in the near past. But I also think too that like, you look at it and you say, well, you end up firing John Harbaugh and you let Mike McDonald walk. And you end up firing Dan Quinn and you let Kyle Shanahan walk. And you end up firing and you look at all these different ones.
You look at Tampa right now, they let Liam Cohen out of the building. And I'm sure if they could do that again, they would have fired and kept Liam Cohen. It's just that like Joe Brady was just like not nearly as sought after as these other guys, and I also don't think people hold Sean McDermott in higher regard than some of the other coaches we're talking about who got fired.
I agree with all that, but I think that's the rationale. Yes. But we don't want to let him leave the building and then he does well somewhere else, and then. But I also think that part of that honestly is I need a change of scenery. I need to be able to do it different in a different spot, right? I'm here. I'm at this level here. I'm friends with all these guys here. Now I'm going to stay and I'm going to go here. And now I'm above all those guys. And it's like, that's where it can be difficult. You're not going in and creating a brand new organization. You're in the organization you were in. Now you're just in a bigger role. And that's a challenging jump to make. We'll see if he can do it. I hope he can't, but we'll see if he can do it, and they're going to be fine because they have Josh Allen. But like,
it won't be bad, but there might just be a 9 or 10 win team every year.
Correct, and that would be fantastic. I would love that, but we'll see.
Can I end this with one totally not serious note?
I love it. Let's do it.
The patches on the jerseys this year for the Super Bowl. My God, what are we doing here? And I will. So for those who haven't seen, they revealed the jersey choices for the Super Bowl, and with that, you get to see what the jersey patches look like with the logo and everything. And we found out through this that there's going to be a USA 250th anniversary patch, which, for some context, there's a historical precedent to this. Super Bowl 10, they had the 200th year patch on the uniforms. But I think there's context here. They didn't have a Super Bowl logo patch for Super Bowl 10. So there's nothing to compete with. And they didn't have captain's patches. They didn't have anniversary patches. This was the only thing that they're putting on there. And it's also just looked better. The USA 251, like, I don't know. It just looks kind of ugly.
Yeah.
And feels unnecessary with the other things. Like if you wanted this to be a USA themed thing, probably should have just gone 2001 on it and had a USA themed logo and leaned into it that way and put the two together and make it one patch. Instead, both teams look like they're Boy Scouts out there with all their merit badges on the front of their uniforms, with the USA patch and the captain's patch and the Super Bowl patch and anniversary patch. Like, what are we doing here? It looks ridiculous.
It's just, I mean, it's just silly. And that's really like, honestly, it's just weird, right? And I also think too that like the Seahawks are adding another patch because it's their 50th anniversary. So they've been wearing another patch all year long. So now they're wearing 3 patches. It's just like it's too
And they've
much.
got 3 patches and the word mark on the shoulder.
Right.
So like it's conceivably the 4 spots where you put something on like the chest and the front of the jersey are
Yeah,
all
they're all
used
taken.
up for them. And for the Patriots, you kind of only have 2 because you've got the shoulder stripe, which
Right.
means that anyone who's a captain now has a patch that's covering up a part of the design of the jersey.
It's just
Which is,
so
I guess, is
weird.
also kind of true for Seattle because they've got a shoulder stripe, and that's where the Super Bowl logo patch is for them right over it.
Right.
It also means that for the Patriots, the Super Bowl logo is on one side, and for the Seahawks, it's on the other side. Like it's
It's a mess. It's just a mess.
It doesn't seem like it was well thought out. And it's just I don't know. I got no objection to doing the 250th anniversary thing and putting it somewhere on the uniform if you want to do that. Again, there is history of this. I just with this, just make it a helmet sticker.
Well, I was gonna say, make a stick on the helmet. Like, I don't know. It's not like I also think too that like, is this something that that they're gonna wear all year? Like in the NFL?
I don't think so because in 76 it was just for the Super Bowl that happened in 70. So it was after the 75 season. So I think they're just doing that again. They are doing the field in the sidelines because it's been there since the new year. I don't know if anyone noticed, but it's stenciled in America 250 around like the 20-25 yard line on both sides. That's stenciled in during the white part. So I think that is going to be there for the full calendar year of 2026.
That's cool.
And I think this is just for the game. But yeah, it just looks, I don't like, okay, you know what it reminds me of? You know how when like a baseball team or a hockey team goes and plays one of those international games at the start of the year, and they put like the commemorative patch saying like, oh, you played this game in like when the Bruins like you play this game in the Czech Republic or you play this baseball game in Japan or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those, which makes it almost feel exhibition-y.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little strange, but you know, what are you gonna do? Gotta love the NFL. They're doing all sorts of stuff, but
they also, I don't know if this is supposed to be a celebration. Like the stuff's been weird about it. Like, why did they not make an announcement in advance?
Well, that's
like, hey, we're
part of it.
excited
You
about
just
this
like
thing.
you're throwing the patch on there, and it's like, oh,
no one knows
250, but like you didn't announce it. It's just I don't know. It's weird.
No one knows until you see the pictures. Like,
right?
I don't know.
It's weird.
Weird stuff. Also, what did you think about the Patriots going all white for the Super Bowl?
So I didn't. Okay, so I didn't love the fact. I didn't like it when they did it in 2017.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason why I didn't like it when they did it in 2017 is because they had won it in 2016 with the white. And so they were wearing the white again because they felt like they won it in 2016.
I think they said these are our Super Bowl uniforms.
Right. And they had lost in 07 and 11. And they were like, well, we lost in the last time we wore the blues. We won the last 2 times we wore the white. So we're wearing the white again. And it's like, I didn't love that. It felt like scared to me, almost like you were like, oh, that's, you know, the blues, bad luck or whatever. This year, I feel like it's the exact opposite. We're the road warriors. We love going on the road. Our identity is that we play better on the road. We are a road team. This is a road game, so we're wearing the white. Regardless of who the home team is, we're on the road. We're wearing the whites. We want to wear the all white. That's what we're wearing. That's what we're comfortable with, so we're wearing it. And that's, you know, so there's a different mindset to it. It feels more like they want to wear the white because they're the road team. They're the road warriors. That's their identity more so than in 2017. It felt like a scared approach. Like we're scared to wear those blues. It's bad juju to be wearing the blues.
We're just like too fancy. Like,
yeah.
We're not thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, aesthetically, I do think that like, all right, so the main colors for both of these teams are blue and silver with an accent color, and the accent color is most prominent for the Patriots on the white jerseys, especially the all white because the red really stands out.
Yeah.
And the neon green is most prominent for Seattle when they wear the all blues because it really contrasts, especially like the pant stripe has the big neon down it. So I do like aesthetically, I think this highlights the differences between the two uniforms the most. So I think it'll end up looking good because of that. Like it'll be red versus green almost.
Yeah, which I like.
It'll look good.
Yeah.
I just get annoyed, and this is people have mocked me for this from other teams because I'm on the internet complaining about, well, we've worn white in the Super Bowl 5 times in a row. I missed when we were wearing the blue uniforms because we get to make complaints like that in New England, and I love being insufferable about that. But I don't know, the early dynasty was like the first 2 were in the blue and silver, and like especially I go back 2 decades, teams didn't really wear like white at home that much, so it's like the only time you saw like the navy blue and the silver, like a different element, was the Super Bowl. Like it was like a thing. It was like, all right, it's different, like lighting. And it's like it's a whole thing. It's like you never see these uniforms in an environment like this. And I always liked that. It was like, this is cool. And being the home team and getting to wear the navy blue and silver for May's first Super Bowl, I would have really liked. I get why they're leaning into the Road Warriors. I don't hate it. And aesthetically, it probably ends up looking better. The navy and silver is my favorite. And
I get it. I get it. And I don't blame you. I don't begrudge you for that. So, but like I said, I feel like they were scared in 2017. And I'm not saying that they were, but it felt like they were scared in 2017. And that it almost feels the opposite this year. And so I'm okay. I'm more okay with it than I was in 2017. I wasn't happy about it in 2017. I don't love it necessarily. I still I would like the blue, the navy and the silver, but I don't mind it because their mentality is, we win on the road. We're going on the road. That's our identity. That's what we're going to do. We're sticking to that identity. So I like that.
Yeah.
But
So
anyways, all right, let's get the heck out of here. We're 90 minutes in. And we got 2 more shows to lead up to this. It's going to be great. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. We're going to be back Sunday or Monday night. We're leaning towards Monday night. We'll see. Not 100% sure, but we're leaning towards Monday night. So
we're figuring things out we're hoping to get some guests for you guys. So the schedule might end up being a little bit different just to accommodate. So we'll see how that lands.
We'll let you guys know. But anyways, thanks for tuning in so much. We appreciate you guys. Thank you to the chat for blowing it up. We really appreciate it. And here we go. Let's do that damn thing. Let's go win that bowl, as they say. So anyways,